Caleb, why do you think that the college football playoff rankings that came out last night could doom the Vols?
Well, I think they could doom the Vols because of moving Indiana ahead of them. I wanted to talk in general about the inconsistencies about the college football playoff rankings, Jimmy. And I just want to know your thoughts on this. How much of a joke are they? And I'm not saying that because they didn't move Tennessee up after Georgia lost. That's fine. I get it if you want to do that. But how could you have Tennessee ahead of Indiana and BYU last week? And Indiana over the weekend beats Michigan, who we all agree is not that good of a team. And BYU wins by 1 point against a Utah team that's on what? Its 17th string quarterback right now?
You got a bad call to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And you bump BYU and Indiana over Tennessee? How do you rationalize that at all? There's no way you could see Indiana and BYU if you don't go by margin of victory and you just go by resume and schedule strength. There's no way you could leapfrog them over Tennessee from this past weekend. And if you go by eye test, there's still no way you could leapfrog them over Tennessee from this past weekend, unless you're saying you were wrong with your rankings last week. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, I did hear somebody say the BYU ranking was a correction from the week before. But apparently you did not notice that Indiana's strength of schedule went from 103 to 100.
I stand corrected. They still haven't beaten a team with a winning record all year.
That didn't convince you? Come on now. And when you say everybody agrees Michigan's not very good, apparently the committee doesn't see it that way. They must think this is the Michigan team from a year ago. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. I'll say this too in regard to that. And I'm going to say probably agrees with you, although I don't want to speak necessarily for him. Matt Stenscombe spoke to the Knoxville Quarterback Club Monday, and he said Tennessee-Georgia's elimination game. Georgia loses, 3 losses, they're gone. Tennessee with 2 losses, they're out. Now, his rationale, the committee's in love with the Big Ten. And the Big Ten is going to get 4 teams in. And now, I don't agree with him because too many other things could happen. For example, what if the ACC and the Big 12 only get 1 team in? That opens the door for another SEC team, right? So I don't completely agree with what he said if Tennessee loses, because we don't know the other losses that may occur with other teams that are vying for a spot in the playoff. While I don't agree with it, his point is the committee loves the Big Ten, and he thinks Tennessee will get hosed if Tennessee loses to Georgia.
Here are my thoughts on it, Jimmy. I think that it's a television show. And I think there was a reason Tennessee was number 1 before they played Georgia in 2022. I think it was better to say the number 1 team travels to Athens to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. I think it was good theater. So I don't place any importance in any of the rankings other than the last one. I could see everything going chalk and then flip-flopping a couple of other teams for next week. I think it gets people talking. And whether we want to go back to who is the national champion in 1987, college football more than any other sport has been about talk. It's been about talking about things other than what happened on the field. So I think they're playing us.
Well, that's a heck of a conspiracy theory. I don't really think that. I don't think that the 13 members of the committee are saying, hey, let's do this for TV rankings. I don't think that. Here's the thing too. When I was watching TV the other day over the weekend, they were putting the rankings of the teams. The rankings of the team were the AP poll, not the college football playoff poll. The ones I watched.
Right.
So doesn't that defeat the purpose? If you're trying to get people to watch a game because of the ranking, and then on TV, they're ranking a team 8th instead of 5th, then what good has that done you? Right?
I don't know. Our policy at Off the Hook Sports is once the college football rankings come out that we use those numbers instead of the AP, Caleb. But I wasn't really sure what to write about Tennessee on Monday because I didn't know whether or not to use the AP or wait for the college football playoff.
Yeah. So looking at the rankings out, if the season ended today, Tennessee would be the number 8 seed hosting a number 9 seed Notre Dame. By the way, whatever else you think about these rankings, that would be an epic showdown. Notre Dame coming to Neyland Stadium in December would just be TV gold, which does Jimmy fuel Dave's conspiracy that it's a TV show because they would want that. But Boise State would be the last one out. I'm sorry, Georgia would be the last one out because Boise State would get the automatic bid. Do you think, Jimmy, that here, let me ask you something that's a little scary with these rankings. Tennessee and Texas. Let me throw out Texas, who's all the way up at number 3. If Texas loses to Texas A&M at the end of the year, shouldn't they, and there's a cluster of 10 and 2 SEC teams, shouldn't Texas be the team left out given the fact that they have the worst schedule of any SEC team by far that's 10 and 2, save for maybe Missouri?
You know, what's interesting about Texas is I was reading the other day where Texas' best win of the year at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I said that yesterday. Yeah.
Whoa, you won at Michigan, but winning at Vanderbilt is a bigger win than winning at Michigan, which says something about the Big Ten and Michigan. Oh, by the way, could Texas be left out? They could be. Now, is their schedule any weaker than Tennessee's? Look, yes. I know Michigan isn't that good, but NC State isn't any good either. And Oklahoma's not what we thought they were. So I don't know where the ranking of their schedule is. Maybe you do. I haven't looked at that. Where is Tennessee's schedule ranked? I don't know, versus Michigan. I saw them ranked recently, 2 or so weeks ago, at like 58 in the country. But I don't know where Michigan is. I do know where Indiana is. I know their schedule sucks. And they're getting a lot. See, and here's the thing, too. Going forward, a lot of people say, well, you need to make sure you play a tough schedule because they look at the strength of schedule. Well, if they do, why is Indiana ranked as high as Indiana is? Look at their schedule.
I'm going to be honest. I could be wrong on this, but I think if Indiana loses to Ohio State this weekend, they're out. I don't think the college football
completely.
I think the college football playoff committee is saying you guys can't go, and so we'll see how that goes.
Well,
but I don't.
Here's the thing: if Ohio State beats them 45-7, I agree with you. If Ohio State beats them 34-31, I'm not so sure. I don't think just losing. I think it's how you lose, which also plays into Tennessee. If Tennessee loses to Georgia by 30 points, Tennessee is going to be out. If Tennessee loses 20-17, then I think the committee considers that. They do consider how you perform even in a loss.
It's a great point.
So can I just – yeah, so I just wanted to bring this up real quick because, Dave, you were asking about strength of schedule. It depends on how you format strength of schedule. Do you value road games? Do you value, how you play in your games, margin of victory with other teams, things like that? But based on the FPI, which does take a lot of this into account, Tennessee's is at number 35 and Texas is at number 56. Now, Tennessee's is second to last in the third from last in the SEC. Yeah. But it is still significantly better than Texas. Nobody's as bad as Missouri's strength of schedule. Worst strength of schedule of all time for an SEC team.
Yeah, and they don't deserve to be in it. Although Eli Drinkwood said they're still in the playoff race. So I go, Eli. But yeah, with Tennessee now, so Tennessee's got Georgia. That's going to boost their strength of schedule. The strength of schedule you mentioned is who you've played up to date, right? Not Correct. Your future. So right. UTEP's going to hurt them. Vanderbilt is not going to hurt them. I don't know how much it'll help them, but it won't hurt them. So in Texas, we'll end up playing Texas A&M. That will help Texas. But what do they have? But Arkansas, Kentucky, those won't help them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Tennessee will probably end up with a tougher strength of schedule than Texas.
Jimmy, back to Matt Stinchcom's point. If you had a bet, again, we won't even make it a mortgage payment. We'll say an electrical payment. But if you had to do that, how many teams from the Big Ten and the SEC do you think will make the 12-team college football playoff?
4 and 4.
I do too. Now, I want to ask you which 4 those will be after a quick message from our friend Medicare Misty. It's open enrollment time. Medicare Misty, over 40 states. That's what she's licensed in and no charge to you.
I've been in business actually 19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
And we call him Jimmy Hyams. Jimmy, if you had to bet the 4 teams that make the college football playoff, and I know we don't know what's happened in Tennessee, Georgia yet, but if you were to bet the 4 teams that make the college football playoff from the SEC, who would it be?
Texas, Tennessee, Georgia. I'm struggling between Ole Miss and Alabama. Ole Miss beat Georgia worse than Alabama did. Ole Miss.
Caleb, what are your thoughts on the 4? I'm actually the Jimmy on all 4 of those.
Well, see, I'm breaking with both you guys because I think 5 teams from the SEC are going to go.
You got Alabama.
And the reason I think that is I don't think any more than 1 team from the Big 12 or the ACC is going. Now, the only caveat to that, guys, is if BYU goes undefeated and then Colorado upsets BYU in the Big 12 title, which very well could happen. Colorado's good enough to do that. They might put both of them in, but otherwise, I think only 1 Big 12 team is going. And so with that in mind, I think it's going to be Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Georgia. And then Clemson's going to be the odd one out. Well, I will say this, one quick caveat. I think Texas A&M has a very good chance to beat Texas later in the year. And if that happens, I think Texas will be the one left out and Texas A&M goes.
Let me make sure I heard you. You think if Colorado wins the Big 12, 2 Big 12 teams get in?
If say BYU goes undefeated, because the committee has kind of made it clear they're not going to count conference championship week losses against you compared to other teams that didn't play conference championship week. That's kind of their philosophy.
Okay. All right. I got you. Okay.
So if BYU's undefeated and ahead of Tennessee going into conference championship week, and Tennessee doesn't play in their conference title and BYU loses theirs, they'll stay ahead of Tennessee, but Colorado will get an automatic bid for winning the Big 12.
Yeah. I know what the College Football Player Selection Committee said. I don't believe them.
Fair enough.
All right. Let's say Colorado beats BYU 40-0. How are you going to put BYU in?
I agree with you on that. That's a great point.
I don't believe the committee. I think they would have egg on their face if they did that, and they know it. So I don't believe them.